Assalamualaikum and welcome again to my class on cost volume profit relationship, and this is the part 1 of the lecture on CVP. Okay, so to look at what we're going to cover in this chapter of CVP. So in this cost volume profit analysis, okay, we're going to look at the assumptions underlying the CVP analysis, okay, the contribution margin, or we call as the CM, and then on the break-even point analysis, method of CVP analysis, margin of safety, degree of operating leverage, and the break-even point for a multiple product, or also we call this as the sales mix. Next. So what are the key assumptions of the CVP analysis? Okay, so there are three assumptions here, okay, on the CVP analysis. The first one, okay, the selling price is constant. The price of a product or service will not change as the volume change. The second one, the costs are linear and can be accurately divided into variable and fixed components. And the variable costs are constant per unit, and the fixed costs are constant in total over the entire relevant range. And in the multi-product companies, okay, the mix of products sold remains constant. Next, now we're going to look at the CM, the contribution margin. So the basic cost volume profit analysis. The contribution margin income statement is helpful to managers in judging the impact on profits of changes in selling price, cost, or volume. So we emphasize the following in the cost behavior. Okay, this is one of the contribution income statement for one of the companies that are producing the bicycle. So there are 500 units of bicycles, okay, and the total sales for the company is 250,000, less with the variable cost, and then we get the CM. The contribution margin is the sales minus with the variable cost, and we get the CM. Call this as the contribution margin. And we minus with the fixed cost here, 80,000, and then we get the net operating income of 20,000. And what you can see here, okay, the CM, okay, is the contribution margin where it showed the remaining from sales revenue. Okay, remaining of the sales revenue after variable expenses have been deducted. Okay, that's the CM. And here, the CM used first to cover the fixed cost. Okay, because we already deducted with the variable cost here, and the remaining will be used to cover the fixed costs. Any remaining CM contributes to the net operating income. So the balance of the after the CM minus with the fixed cost will be the net operating income. This actually you have been calculated before, but maybe just we have the new terms that we're going to introduce, which are the CM, okay, and the net of CM after deducting the fixed expense is the net operating income. Okay, so the sales, variable expense, and CM can also be expressed on per unit basis. Okay, this is in total, and this is the per unit basis. We get a 200 CM per unit. Alright, so each month, okay, the company must generate at least 80,000. Okay, so this is the in total for the month score. Must generate at least $80,000 in total contribution to break even, which is the total sales at which profit is zero. Okay, So break even is the point whereby there is no gain, no loss, and we pass the break even. Okay. For the break even later, we're going to look in details. Okay, what is actually the break even? Okay. And in this example, okay, in this example, it shows to you the break-even point, whereby when the company, okay, sold for 400 units of bicycle, then this is the CM that they will earn, okay, 80,000. And at that time, okay, we know that the fixed cost is the cost that remain constant at a certain level, right? When we learn on this management accounting at the beginning of the lecture class, okay, at the beginning of the semester, we know that the fixed cost will remain constant at a certain level. So now the fixed cost is 80,000 when the company sold for 400 unit of bicycles, and then the company will achieve, okay, or at the level of the break-even point, no gain, no loss. Okay, just enough the contribution margin to cover the fixed expense of 80,000. And in another situation, okay, if the company, okay, sells of the 401, okay, 401 unit of bicycles, okay, and there is the company is not in the situation of the break even, whereby they here, okay, we can found 200 as the net operating income. Okay. Next, okay, the contribution approach. The another part, okay, we do not need to prepare an income statement to estimate profits at a particular sales volume. Simplify, multiply the number of units sold above break even by the contribution margin per unit. So another approach here, okay, instead of we find in total, okay, we can just to multiply with the CM per unit. Okay, CM per unit. And in this situation, if the company sold 430 bikes units, okay, its net operating income will be 6,000. So how we get the 6,000, which is from the level, okay, this is the differ between the break-even point of 400, if you still remember from the previous slide, and we minus with the 430, okay, 430 minus 400, and this is the difference that the company will earn the profit, okay. So 30 units times 200 per unit, the CM. So this is the CM per unit. So that the total we get the net operating income of 6,000. CVP relationships in equation form. Okay, so this is the in the equation form. The contribution income statement can be expressed in the following equation. So what that we generate in the equation form is actually from the income statement. Okay, whereby the profit is equal to sales minus with the variable expenses. Okay, this is the variable expense, and minus with the fixed cost, and we will get the profit. So here is the profit at 200. CVP relationship in equation form. So here we show to you the details. Okay, in the situation when the companies earn profit of 200, okay, so this is the total of the sales, total of the variable expense, and this is the fixed cost that remain constant. Okay. CVP relationship in equation form. Okay, they're still in discussing about the CVP relationship in equation form, but it provides to you the details breakdown. Okay, when a company has only one product, we can further refine this equation as shown in this slide. Okay, so this is the number of quantity. Okay, quantity sold, the selling price, the variable expense. Okay, to try to use the quantity in terms of to find the profit, and also in terms to find the variable cost. All right. So here, this is the same calculation of how we getting of 200 unit, 200 of the profit, whereby it's using the equation. Okay, the equation. CVP relationship in equation form using the contribution margin. It is often useful to express the simple profit equation in terms of the CM. Okay, so unit CM equal to selling price per unit minus with the variable expense per unit. Okay, so unit CM, selling price minus with the variable cost. So we get the unit CM. So from this equation, okay, there are many options that you can calculating the profit of the company. Okay, few approach that we have, and including the CM per unit approach. So you can use any method that easy for you to calculate or to find the CM, the profit, or also in order to find the break-even point of the company. Okay, next is on the still calculating the CVP relationship in equation form. Okay, you can look further. Okay, for this example on using the equation form. Next is we're going to look at the CVP graph. Okay, CVP graph. So the relationship among revenue, cost, profit, and volume. Okay. Okay, these four items can be expressed graphically by preparing a CVP graph. Okay, so the bicycle developed the contribution margin income statement at 0. Okay, it should to you at level of 0. Okay, meaning that no unit of sales, and then at the 200 unit of sales, 400, another one for 600. So when we're going to plot the graph, of course, we need to have the few points, okay? So this is the points at the 0 units, 200 units, 400 units, and 600 units. And we provide the details, the cost at each different level of units, okay? Variable expense, CM, the fixed expense, and the net operating income. Okay, we calculated how much the net income or the net loss that we pocket at that level. Okay, in a CVP graph, unit volume is usually represented at the horizontal. Okay, this is for the units, and dollars in the y-axis. Okay, so here is the dollars y-axis and the units x-axis. Okay, so this is the step 1. You determine what will be at your y and what will be at your x-axis. Okay, then we draw a line parallel to the volume axis to represent the fixed expense. Okay, so this is the fixed expense that we have in this situation, which is 80,000. So we draw that line either at 0 units of unit sold, 100 unit, 200, 300, 400, and even 600. The fixed cost is remain constant. This is the constant line. Okay, of this is the constant lines. Okay, and next, choose some sales volume. Say that 400 unit and plot the point representing total expense, fixed and variable. Draw a line through the data point back to where the fixed expense line intersect the dollar axis. Okay, so this is the total cost when producing, or sorry, when the unit sold 100, 200, 300, 400, and 600. So we draw the line using the points that we prepared, okay, or we getting from the previous slides. And then the next steps, okay, choose some sales volume, say that 400 unit, and plot the point representing total sales. Draw a line through the data point back to the point of origin. So this is the sales line. Okay, in the green line is present the sales line. So how we plot this? Okay, we're using the data that we have from the previous slide. Okay. Okay, so when you're preparing the CVP graph, okay, after you had plot the sales line, okay, after you plot the sales line, the total expense, the fixed expense, okay, and then you could find the break-even point, okay. So here is the break-even point, okay. You can see here the break-even point is at the level of 400 units, okay, and the total of 200,000, okay, 200,000 of the sales. So the company would be no gain or no loss, okay, when it sold 400 units, okay, or we call this break even points. Okay, so here, okay, here is the profit area, and here is the loss area, okay, loss area. You can see that the profit area, when, okay, the green line is representing the sales, okay, so the sales is greater than the cost, then there will be profit area here. And for the loss area, you can see that the blue line, okay, blue line is the total expense lines, okay, it is higher, okay, or more than the green line, okay, the sales line. Then there will be here show the loss area, okay. So there are many approaches that you're going to use to find the break-even point, okay, including the plotting the graph. Okay, next. So preparing the profit graph using the simple form, and even simpler form of CVP graph is called the profit graph. Okay, profit equal to unit CM times with the quantity, okay, minus with the fixed cost. So break-even point where profit is 0. So profit is 0 here, and then here will be the break-even point when the profit earn is 0. So when the profit earn is 200, okay, there is a meaning that upper than this line, okay, the company will not uh, will not be uh, no no loss, but they will earn gain, okay, after this line. So use the contribution margin ratio to compute the changes in contribution margin and net operating income resulting from the sales volume. So CM ratio and the variable expense ratio. So the CM ratio, CM contribution margin as a percentage of sales is referred to as a CM ratio, and this ratio is computed as follows. So CM ratio, okay, CM divide with the sales and we get the CM ratio. So using the same example of the companies, so the CM ratio is calculated. So remember that the contribution margin is at 800 and the sales, okay, the sales is 200 and we earn the CM ratio of 40%. So what does it mean, okay, of this 40%? Okay, it means that for each of $1 increase in sales, it will result in the total margin increase of 40 cent. Okay, 40% represents 40 cent. So $1 increase in sales, it will uh, results in a total contribution margin increase of 40 cent. So you have to remember this formula on how to calculate the CM ratio. CM, contribution margin, divided with the sales. Contribution margin, okay, CM ratio and the variable expense ratio. Okay, previously over the sales. Okay, now the CM ratio we have calculated, okay, using the previous um, formula, and now another formula, CM per unit divide with the selling price per unit. So this is we get it in terms of per unit. Okay, previously in total, now per unit, and we still get the same level of 40%. Step 3. Okay, the variable expense as a percentage of sales is referred to as the variable expense ratio. So this ratio is computed as follows. Variable expense ratio, variable expense divided with the sales. Okay. So using the same example of the company, 120,000 divided with the 200,000, and we get the 60% of the variable expense ratio. And another approach, okay, here, contribution margin ratio and the variable expense ratio. Here another formula, okay. CM ratio equal to contribution margin over sales, okay. Sales minus with the variable expense divided with the sales, and you simplify this formula and we get 40% of the CM ratio. Application of CM ratio. Now we apply the CM ratio that we calculated previously. If a company increase sales from 400 to 500 bytes, okay, or $50,000, CM will increase by $20,000. 50,000 times 40%. So here is the proof. So 400 units and 500 units. So sales, we know that at the 400 units, the company is at the break even. Okay, whereby no gain, no loss here. Okay, it's just enough to cover all the costs, okay, the variables and the fixed costs. And at another level, when the company sold 500 units, okay, so the company will get the net operating income of 20,000. Okay, a 50,000 increase, okay, so meaning that the difference of these two, okay, 50,000 increase in sales revenue would result in a 20,000 increase in CM, contribution margin. So how we get this? Actually using the contribution ratio. So 50,000 times with the 40%, and we get the 20,000. So here is just the proof lah. Okay, it's a proof when we using this long way. Okay, and instead of we just using the CM ratio, we able to find straight away the net operating income, which is same with here. Okay, all right, next. So now we're going to look at this example. Coffee Clutch is an espresso stand in a downtown office building. The average selling price of a cup of coffee is $1.49. Okay, and the average variable expense per cup is 0.36. The average fixed expense per month is 1,300. An average of 2,100 cups are sold each month. What is the CM ratio for coffee clutch? Okay, so now we look how we calculate the CM ratio here. So unit contribution margin divide with the unit selling price. So unit contribution margin, um, how we get the unit contribution margin here. Okay, the average selling price minus with the variable cost. Okay, so we get 1.13 and divided with the unit selling price for 1.49. So 1.13 by 1.49, so we get the CM ratio of 0.758. Okay, using the CM ratio. Using CM ratio formula. Okay, now we're going to apply the contribution ratio. Okay, in determine the sales volume. Okay, increase in sales volume. The relationship between profit and the CM ratio can be expressed using the following equation. Profit equal to CM ratio times with the sales minus with the fixed cost. If the company increase its sales volume to 500 units, okay, 500 unit of the bikes, what would management expect profit or net operating income to be? So using the CM ratio, okay, profit is equal to CM ratio times with the sales minus with the fixed expense. So 40% times with the 250,000 minus with the fixed cost, and we simplify this equation and we get the profit of 20,000. So instead of you using the income statement approach, okay, equation approach, and now we're using the another equation approach, but applying the CM ratio, we also will get the same answer, okay, in determining or finding the profit of the companies. So you may use any of the approach, okay, in finding the break-even point, in finding the profit of the companies. Any of the approach, okay, that you may use. Okay, that's your option, unless the question already determine what method that you have to use in finding the break-even point or the profit of the companies. Okay, so hope you will get an understanding, okay, on this part 1, okay, on the CVP analysis, and we will meet again in the part 2 of this topic. Okay, so thank you.